Hello, welcome to another edition of the Talking Basketball podcast. I am Mark, and with me today we have another special guest. In Paul's absence, we have got none other than Keith White. Keith, thank you so much for joining me.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for inviting me back.
No, it's you were very popular in the previous interview we did with you, so it was
really?
It's a pleasure us to have you back. But not only do we have Keith on the line, but none other than the man himself,
the legend himself.
The legend himself, Paul, is back on the line.
So how are you feeling,
Hello.
Paul?
Yeah, getting there. So, I mean, really, I've not listened to the episodes in the last 2 weeks, Mark, but
Thanks, mate.
Did you say what happened?
Yeah, I said you were doing gender reassignment surgery and it was going well.
No. So for our listeners then, so what happened was I was playing a basketball game and I went for an absolute devastating rejection. And instead of rejecting the guy, I got my front four teeth knocked out, the top ones, and laid on the floor with teeth hanging in the back of my mouth. With blood everywhere. So it was
devastating. You got the devastating bit, right? It was just the rejection part.
I think it's with those. I've seen those injuries before, and I've seen people getting 2 teeth knocked out and stuff like that. And I've always thought in my head, man, that is horrific. Is the word that always comes into mind. But when it's you, it's like, oh man, and. I mean, the one thing I would say is I had braces like a long time ago, but I had a fixed retainer in, and what the hospital and dentists I've seen to afterwards, they said basically that fixed retainer I had saved my teeth. And one of the things they mentioned, and I think it's really important to just put out there on the podcast, is if anyone ever has a tooth knocked out in a game or for whatever reason, even though it's absolutely disgusting, put it straight back in your mouth, because that keeps the tooth alive.
Even if it's not in, like, you don't shove it back in, but you mean as in like just literally
put it in your mouth, so it's with the saliva and the blood, so it keeps tooth. If you can't do that, put it in a glass of milk. That's what they said. So it's milk or back in your mouth. So in my case, they were stuck to this fixed retainer, but they were out of the sockets. But that actually kept them alive. So I'm going to save my teeth. But I mean, I couldn't really speak overly well in the first week. So this is probably the first, maybe last 5 days I've been able to talk normally now, which is good. So I'll come back on the podcast. I mean, we had some cracking guests coming up that we had to let down, which I feel really, really gutted about. Steve Nelson, absolute BBL legend. He was due to come on a few days after the incident. So, but he was very cool about it. He said he would definitely come back on. Maybe a bit of an exclusive here for our listeners, but I've actually managed to get hold of a guy called Dan Lloyd, who is the Portsmouth FC basketball club manager when they won the BBL. So he said he's going to come on as well, but he's just going to, I just said, look, wait until I'm back on. So I don't think we're too far away, but I've got a couple of minor operations and then we're back. But that is why my absence is why I've been absent.
But at least you're not dribbling everywhere and you're not like or anything like that. So, small victory.
Not anymore. No, not anymore. First couple of days trying to have soup and it just dribbles down. It's a bit affects you. I mean, that's the one thing I said to you is we need to do the episode when I come back. We should do an injuries episode because, you got some great stories out. Like Keith, his was a great story. You've got, there's so many. We could have so many stories. I think that should be the first episode.
Well, we mentioned Elliot blowing his knee out and stuff, and there's a few people who've had those sort of injuries, obviously, given basketball's nature. But
what the one thing I would say is this is where I was going with injury wise is, and everyone knows probably if you've gone through stuff like that, even ankle injuries, you have the physical injury, but then you've got the mental injury as well. And sometimes getting over that mental injury is a lot harder than physical injury. Like when you drive into the lane and you're looking down at your ankles rather than looking up at the hoop. So let's see what happens. But I did want to say a huge thank you to all the messages of support and love that I got off like that. Really helped me get through that. Definitely the first week. I mean, I was as down as you can be. And the messages, like for example, I had some from like the Bald Eagles, from Keith, from yourself, loads of people in the basketball community, like the FIBA GB guys, the Portsmouth Force, obviously, some BBL legends, Colin, Iris, Steve. It was really nice to get all those messages, and that they were of huge support and value to me. So I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Wow, it's nice to see you talking up and about again, mate. And hopefully be back in the studio soon.
Yeah, hopefully. Well, I think if not next week, the week after. Like I said, I've got some minor surgery I've got to have done, and then I'm back. So I just don't know how much that's going to affect me. But at the moment, it feels like I'm healing quite quick. So let's see.
Well, Keith, when Paul was saying about having to have a liquid diet, a few days after I went round and saw him, and he said, all I want is a Burger King. That's all he was craving, is like, I just want a Burger King burger. He's absolutely like, I just want one of those. So I thought it was very restrained. I didn't take one down and like waft it around the window or anything like that.
Well, you could have put it through the food processor for him, and he would have cut it through a straw. That would have been okay.
Yeah.
My wife did a casserole, actually, like a chicken Sunday roast, and she blended it and kind of tried to do that. It didn't taste the same. The same at all. But guys, look, I just wanted to come on and give you an update, and I'll let you get on with the show. Yep. It's nice hearing you guys again, and I'll be back soon.
Good stuff, Rob. I'll speak to you soon.
All right, see you guys later.
Bye, Paul.
See you later, buddy. Well, that was a nice, unexpected chat from him. But yeah, it's nice to see Paul up and about. He was pretty blue, obviously, as you can imagine, but it is going to be I won't say a longer game, but that whole mental thing, I think the healing of the mouth and stuff is one thing, but getting on the court again, and we all know how easy it is just to catch an elbow just in the face and stuff. Then even if you just got bumped on it, and I can say this because Paul won't mind, but when he had a cut on his nose a few years back, and when he did that, he was like, I just need it to heal, so I don't want anything to happen to it. Literally, his son, the very next day, toy sword, smack straight on the nose. I mean, is like a magnet, isn't it? So anything like that happens, you're always almost cautious, and it sort of draws it in, doesn't it? So it is, bless him. But so anyway, Keith, I did say to you, if you come down, and being our resident Newcastle expert, it was only fair, Keith, that you covered the Newcastle and Sheffield game, which it was a home game. I thought, what could go wrong here? And
exactly. So I did go and watch it live. I had tickets and went, and it was pretty much one of the worst performances the Eagles have had this season. Unfortunately, it wasn't the best game that I've attended. So, I mean, the scores are out now, so everybody knows that they got beat fairly convincingly by Sheffield.
But it was a
it wasn't the normal cells, really.
It was. I mean, one thing I'll say, and I think it's a fair thing to say, is that Sheffield, it wasn't that they were playing amazingly. They did play well, but it seemed that everything they were every shot they were taking was dropping.
Yeah, the biggest difference in the game, looking at the stats here now, was the shooting percentages. Sheffield were fairly consistent. They shot around 50% for the game, compared to the Eagles' 36%. So 36% isn't great.
That is terrible, isn't it? That is it.
They actually put up more shots than Sheffield as well. It's just the fact that they didn't score. So Newcastle put up 76 shots to Sheffield 64.
And for a home game as well, you would expect that you've got an imposing scenario where people were expecting a big crowd. There's going to be a lot of noise. I know they're used to playing against that, but still, those things do make a difference. But it absolutely almost helped Sheffield.
I guess I don't know we'll go into the reasons as to why we think it was the case, but they just definitely weren't the normal selves at all. And like you say, Sheffield were fairly consistent. So who knows what went on, but the shooting was definitely well below par. So
were there any? I won't say disappointing performances, but Johnson's putting in 23 points. Austin Jr.'s doing 12. Taj Green was 16. I mean, they're okay, but no one else is really contributing, are they?
No, but if you compare that to Sheffield, where they had 1, 2, 3, 4 people in double figures and one person on 8, so they nearly had 5 people in double figures. So the spread of the scoring there was pretty good.
And Nixon as well was on 9. I mean, it just, it's always makes that difference, doesn't it? If you have a nice spread team and it's even, you'd rather have 5 people in doubles than have 2 who are on like 25 points each, because it just, I mean, as far as defending as well, you go, well, if anyone can score, that's a harder proposition.
Yeah.
I mean, I saw the highlights. I wasn't obviously there in person, but when I watched it, I thought it seemed quite sloppy. Some of the play.
Well, it was as well, and the shooting wasn't great, as we've said. The passing wasn't tremendous either. There was flashes of the old Newcastle where they were defending quite hard, getting turnovers and running on the break, but they were few and far between to what they normally are. So, I don't know what the problem was, but it just wasn't. It wasn't sort of the normal Newcastle Eagles game, should we say? Was there a certain point in the game that it sort of changed, or was it just the whole game? Do you think
from being there? Because you like everything, you always get a slightly different view when you're looking through the old goggle box. Whereas being there, you sort of get a thing like they're not hitting anything, or they're not defending well, or.
I don't think there was any turning point. I think it was pretty much like that for the whole game, because we knew straight away that something wasn't right, and it just continued throughout the game. What have I got? I'm just looking through the notes here. I mean, first quarter they were only shooting 36%.
Wow.
It was tied 22-22 after the first quarter, but it never really got going. Second quarter, I thought it might have pulled back a bit, but it was 23-28 after a few minutes, and then at the end of the quarter, it was 32-43, I think. So it never really got going for the Eagles at all.
No. That's it's surprising, because towards this sort of back end of the season, they've been playing pretty well, haven't they?
Yeah. I'm not sure what the reasons were. I mean, they had a hard game against the Gladiators away the week before. And then only a few days before this game, they had a really tough game in Denmark in the ENBL.
Yeah.
Where it went to overtime. And then this game was sandwiched in between that and then the All-Star weekend. So whether that was a distraction as well, I'm not sure. I'm not sure how important the game was with regard to standings in the league, or whether it was a must-win to get a better playoff place, or what. Have you got the league standings there? Or?
Yeah, I do. I mean, it's funny enough, when I was looking at the league standings, the loss made no difference to where they sit in terms of they're still fourth position.
Yeah, so maybe that was a contributing factor as well. Who knows?
And because more importantly, that where Leicester had lost previously, the win actually puts them, as Newcastle have played 28 games, Leicester have played 29, and they both have the same wins, and Newcastle have one less loss on the same points. So that puts them in fourth still. If they'd have won that, they'd have been much more comfortable position and had a clear thing. So at the moment, they really need to win this week's game.
Yeah,
just to keep that gap with Leicester and stay in fourth. That's fine. Are they going to catch Caledonia? Caledonia played an extra game. But they've got 17 wins, 34 points. So, and one less loss. So it could be possible. Cheshire have played 27 games, so they've actually got 2 games in hand, and they've got 18 wins. So it's very unlikely you're catching Cheshire. It's London and Cheshire 1 and 2, and that's pretty much how it's going to stay.
Yeah.
I think Newcastle potentially have a chance to go third against Caledonia, and just keep that gap away from Leicester, which would probably be in their interest going into the sort of the playoffs and everything.
Yeah.
But it is very surprising. I mean, look, we're not saying that Sheffield are a bad team in any stretch of imagination. They've had this team that they, I won't say not at the core, but they fundamentally they can play some good basketball, but they just don't really seem to ever. They're very mid-table.
Yeah.
And they just played their game, and I don't know what Newcastle were doing. I really don't. I mean, the ENBL game, it was it Back and Bears? I think it was, or something.
Yes. Yeah. That's right.
And they lost that, didn't they? 96-92. But that was a great game, that ENBL game. That was and you have to remember that is the quality that Newcastle have. They're playing in European leagues, and they're playing against solid teams.
Yeah.
So it'd be easy to say they're gassed because they had some hard games, but I don't know. I mean, they had a few days. They're all professionals, and they're all a lot younger than me, so I'm sure they've got the cardio. They can recover pretty quickly.
Well, they've got a full week to recover, and we'll see how they get on. Is it Friday they play Surrey at home?
Yes.
So we'll hopefully the Eagles team that wheel out this week will be the good one and not the one that was wheeled out last week, hopefully. Yeah,
I mean, what is quite funny is it's the 24th actually. You're playing in Sheffield, playing the Sharks again, aren't you?
Yes, on the Sunday, yeah.
So it's nice little a repeat, but obviously the Scorchers are before that. And I would like to think you could beat the Scorchers quite comfortably there, especially as a home game. I don't know if they're I say not a bogey team for some people, but because they're lower down, some people take their foot off the gas a little bit. And Surrey are quite a quick team, if nothing else. So I don't know. I think they could cause you problems, but maybe that was it. Maybe Sheffield were a bit of a bogey team that day, and it just didn't matter what Newcastle did. It just seemed for me looking that it was a bit clumsy. There was a turnovers, some sloppy play, and I just thought that's not Newcastle that I just watched in the EMBL a few days before. That was not the same team, even though the same people are there. It just wasn't the same team. So
No,
it can't be down to them trying to learn each other or anything. I just couldn't work it out. But
no,
yeah,
it was a mystery, but it's done now. So on to the next one.
wow. I'll keep bringing it up during the episode, just because
thanks.
I can. So because of that, there's 6 games roughly every week, and you have Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. For those who don't know how the British Basketball League works, which is nice. It's great for us, and it's great to be able to have that over the weekend, so you can see it, and then during the early parts of the week you can crack on with what else you're doing, and that's when we do our normal shows. But this weekend was different because they were doing an all-star game, or an all-star weekend, so to speak, for the British Basketball League. So they hadn't done one for quite a few years. Now, I don't know what the date was, the last one, or when they did something similar of this ilk. They haven't done it for the ladies teams, for example. So this is the first time they've done it for them. But there was a format, and the format was, it was going to be the ladies game, so North versus South. And then it was the dunk 3-point competition.
3 points first, yeah.
And then a dunk competition, and then they finished up with the men's game.
Yeah.
So that was the in brackets, the weekend. Take it away, Keith. What was your first thought of that?
Well, first of all, they've tried to follow the NBA format, but condensed it into one day rather than 2 for a start off. And I was praying that the men's game wouldn't go the same way as what the NBA game went, but we'll get into that in a minute. So first up, the ladies game. That was quite promising. I mean, I quite enjoyed the ladies game. It was played competitively.
Yep.
It was a good game to watch, and I think it was a good advert for women's basketball, especially the WBBL.
Yep.
So I thought, well, could be on to a winner here with that one. I mean, it was dominated by the London Lions players, really. And
just a little bit.
Yeah. Because there was 4 London Lions players and 3 Manchester Giants.
Yeah, I mean, you also had in the South, who else was it? I'm trying to think who it was now on the ladies team. Yes, it was the Manchester Giants. And between all of them, that just sort of made the team.
Yeah.
The ladies' game, for me, was the standout of the whole weekend, of that whole day.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because firstly, it represented, some people, that's the first time they've ever experienced, they just flicked it on, there's basketball on, I'm just going to watch that. That was what a game looks like. That is exactly what a WBBL game looks like.
Exactly, yeah.
And the ladies were going for it. They weren't holding back. They were defending. I was seeing full court presses. People were hustling down. There was a good atmosphere, and they would you got me this time sort of thing. But they were going for it. And I absolutely respected them for that because that, well, as we talk about maybe in the men's game, they maybe didn't get that memo.
No.
But the ladies' game was fantastic. But one thing I never really appreciated, I watched the WNBA game, and one of the things I always picked up on there was the way in which they handle the ball. There's quite a lot of turnovers, but it's usually because I want to say change of direction, but they crowd in a certain area. And there's often quite a lot of turnovers in those sort of instances. But when they're not crowding, they make so much space in the ladies' game. They make so much space, and their shooting, it's so rapid. It's almost, I want to say not almost like a chest pass, but the speed at which they catch and release. The men's game, it's normally it's more pensive, it's slower, it's up, take a nice big arc, low shot. The ladies' game, bang, the shot's up, that's it. And I really enjoyed watching it.
It was good.
I don't understand the colours though, the colour schemes. Why was it light blue and dark blue?
Yeah, that was a bit of a mystery to me as well. Whether they picked that because it looks good on the TV, I don't know, but they should have had a bigger difference in colours, because it was just 2 shades of blue, really.
Yeah, it was it's a bit unusual, wasn't it? And I couldn't help thinking. I mean, in America, they often do the red and blue, east and west. I can't help thinking, why would they not do that? Maybe they didn't want to do something politically because, you know, red north, blue south. I don't know. Some people might read into it. Who knows? That could have been a thing, but I just thought it was a bit odd having 2 shades of blue. It felt a bit odd.
And the men's game was the same. I mean, they should have maybe done different colours for the women for the men.
I still think just like I mean, there were so many people complaining about, because look, we're going to compare to the NBA's All-Star. We just are, because that's what they were trying to model us on. And even then, every single fan is saying, let them wear their own kit. They wear the white kit if they're on one team, and then they wear the coloured kit if they're on the other team. Whichever way you spin that, if West wears the white kits or the light kits or whatever they call them, and the other one wears the coloured kit, I don't care. No one cares, but just make them do. You want to see people in their own kits. They should just do that. They should just do that. It would just make it so. I mean, because even if you've got like dark blue was the south. Well, hang on a minute, but Caledonia wear dark blue and they're from the north. The light blue kit looked exactly the same as Surrey Scorchers, which are from the south. It makes no sense.
No.
It just made no sense to me.
I think the reason the NBA stopped doing that was because if they have another special jersey for the NBA All-Star game, they can flog another jersey, can't they? So
no, Keith. Keith, it's not about the money. It's never about the money.
No.
But I mean, but you say that, but they actually did one. I don't know which year it was. I'm sure they did one where it was like their home kit, but it was adapted and had All-Star on it. So it was an adapted version of their home kit, but All-Star or away kit and All-Star. So they could still, people would still want that. That's all they got to do. Just put a little logo or you know, when we do the World Cups and football and stuff, and they put the little star on it or something, and that's all they got to do.
Yeah, that would work.
But I have to give credit to Gustafsson from the south, because she was absolutely a handful for some of those those players. And I know, was it Temi?
Fang Bengley, yeah.
Yeah, she was the one who got the I think the MVP.
MVP, yeah.
Yeah, unbelievable. I mean, 20 points. You're winning MVP if you're getting 20 points. But all these ladies were absolutely, I mean, it's 81-99, and at one point it looked like the North was winning, and then the South just sort of stepped in a gear. But that was 100% the best part of that whole weekend. And the only criticism I have for that whole game was, where were the fans?
Yes, the first thing I wrote down on here was there was a lot of empty seats.
That is really disappointing to see.
Yeah.
And I mean, it looked like the whole, because I from memory of seeing around the, you know, the tall bits and stuff, the top layer doesn't get open that much. They don't really have many people up there. Then they have like a middle circle, so to speak. I don't think anyone was sat there. If there was a few people, and that's over the whole weekend. And then most people were sat in that lower ball, or the bit where there's the atrium that people are standing. That was where most people seem to be, from that bit standing or down. And there was still, I mean, they've done that clever thing with the seating. I don't know if anyone's not seen it. Look at London's seating, where they've changed all the colours to make it look like people are sitting there. But if you just pause a frame, you'll suddenly realise actually there's not that many people there.
No.
So I don't know why that was. I don't know what.
I mean, it's a lot. It's probably a long day for a lot of people. I mean, it started. The women's game was 12:30, and then the proceedings didn't finish till 5:30. So maybe people just sort of rolled up halfway through, and I don't know. But I mean, if it was me and I'd paid all that money for a ticket, I would have been there from the start and watched the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, I just think it's ironic, really, because if they'd have paid that, they'd have gone in there and thought, "Oh, we're going to see these bits at the end." You missed the if you weren't there for that first game, that's the best game. You missed the best part of it. It was entertaining. It was good, some good basketball, and they've had it in the NBA recently where people like Carmelo Anthony are praising women's basketball because there's such a core rooting in fundamentals and the way in which the game's played, and it's almost like, I might say not its purest form, but that's how they've been talking about it. And I think that's when you watch that game, you thought, yeah, absolutely, then everything that you want them to do, they're nailing it. There's a difference in the way it's physical was played, that's fine, but you're going to get that anyway. But it was a brilliant game to watch. So that is if no one's watched it, and I will come on to this as one of my other gripes for the weekend. It's a nice little segue. To find how to watch it was not easy, because if you weren't watching it live, the British Basketball League, if you go onto their page, it's normally go onto YouTube. You go onto YouTube, it wasn't on their YouTube. Well, where is it? Oh, you've got to go to Sky. If you go on Sky's YouTube, it was listed on there. It's a 5.5 hour game.
Yeah.
And then when you started watching it, it kept cutting out because they won't show the adverts. So you'd have these bits where you think, I don't know what's going on here. Then suddenly, poof, it come back to life again and you start watching the game. But all of those things that they do with the BBL, they don't have consistency in how you're supposed to view it. If you're not physically at that game, you don't know if it's going to be on BBC or on Sky or on their YouTube. And there's no way of you knowing which one it's going to be, which does seem a bit of a shame sometimes.
Yeah.
Because they're if I want to go back, but for years and years and years, I always like to think of the BBL a bit like the Formula One, because it's a product and it's limited in a certain range of, this is the people that are involved, these are the amount of groups there are, etc., etc. We do this is how long the season is. But they showed it on BBC. You knew when it was on. It starts then, it ends then, and that went on for hours and hours. But everyone knew where it was, knew where to find it, knew where things were. When they changed to, I think it was Sky, they made a big jump to Sky after Channel 4. It just went kaput because people were like, I'm not buying a new license to go watch it, so then I won't watch it. And then consequently, people stopped falling out. I mean, I certainly did, but stopped falling out of love with it. If you want to build that viewership up, I mean, like you say, you went to the game, but not all of us have a team that's anywhere near. I think our nearest team's like 50, 60 miles away. So
yeah, I mean, on their YouTube channel, they should, if it's not on their channel, they should have a link to wherever it's on, and then at least if you go to one place, you've got the link to find it somewhere else. But there's nothing, is there? And
some of those games as well, it will be under videos, and others it will be under live, because the live ones are the ones that they're broadcasting live. Brilliant. Again, that's great that you're doing that. But they obviously have got these licensing deals that they keep promoting, and they've got with other countries and other places. Wonderful. But you're actually making it really convoluted for people to follow. If I said, I want to watch, I don't know, Bristol game. Where's that? Oh, that's going to be on BBC. Okay. What about this one? Oh, no, this one's on Sky. What about this one? Oh, this one we stream live. Just put it in one. I just have it in one. Even if you just said it's all on BBC, which would be ideal, and they also streamed it on YouTube. Great. It's just, I don't know. I think that it was a bugbear for me. I thought it was a bit painful. Yeah. But the coverage was good. I couldn't argue with the coverage. Women's game was nice. And then that led into the 3-point competition.
Yes. They decided to have two guys from the north and two girls from two guys, one from the north, one from the south, and two girls, north and south. But they didn't seem to make it a north and south competition at all. It was just all individual.
No.
So, and then unfortunately, the two girls had to come straight off the back of playing the game to compete in the 3-point shooting competition.
Yep.
Which was a bit odd. So why they picked two of the girls from the game, I don't know. Maybe they should have picked two people who weren't in the game. I don't know. But
no, that was I'm glad you mentioned that, because that was the first thing I thought. The feedback from I think it was the first shooter. One of the things she said was they went, "Oh, you might have done enough." I think she got 52 or something. They said you might have done enough to get through to the next round. And they said, "What are you going to change up?" And she went, "Oh, I've got to use my legs more, but I've run out of puff. I've just got nothing."
Yeah.
And she got a good score. And then the final shot was by the lady who was supposed to. They were convinced that was the one. That's the one that's going to be giving the guys a run for the money. And that didn't work out at all, did it?
No, Georgina Gale scored 9 points out of a possible 99. Gustafsson scored 42.
Yep.
So that was
42, not 50 yet.
And then Matt Morgan won with 63, and Aaron Ray was runner-up with 57.
So I liked when they interviewed Aaron Ray, because they said, "Hey, you started on the left and worked your way around. Everyone else has started on this side and working their way around. Why is that?" And he said, "To be honest, we're coming in, we're cold, and that's my weaker side, because I'm there. I prefer pivoting and then going into my shot. So that would make sense that you'd want to be on the right-hand side." So his theory was, rather like start on the weak side, because I've got to get into it anyway. So if that's my weak side as it is, I might as well sacrifice those, but know that I'm going to nail the M1s. And you literally watched his shooting get better and better as he went round.
Yeah.
Matt Morgan was great. No, he was just sinking them like it was just easy, wasn't it?
Yeah. But it's just a shame they only had two from the north and two from the south. I mean,
and why one round? Why did they have one round?
I was going to say, why one round?
But they even said it like, "Oh, well, we do that. What are you going to do the next round?" "Oh, yeah, I'm going to do this." And I can't remember who was it who got 9 points at the end.
Georgina Gale.
It was Georgina Gales, yeah. So they said, even the commentators, as you go around, they're going, "She's got no legs. She's got no legs." You could see that she was struggling to get a shot up, and you go, she was running we saw her hit a couple of threes in the game.
Yeah.
And she's been running around for 45 minutes. And then they've come straight off the back of that and go, bang, right now into a 3-point competition. You go, there's no comparison to that, but it really shows how, if you've been playing for a 30-40 minute period, your body is just depleted.
Yeah.
They both really, I mean, it was all credit to the first shooter getting sort of that 42, I think it was she got. Gunderson.
Yes.
Yeah. All credit to that, because again, she's played the same game, and that's hard work.
Yeah.
But I don't understand why they didn't do a second round. They just went, right, okay, so Matt Morgan, because he got 63 wins. What?
Yeah. I mean, the only thing I can think of is because they're trying to cram everything into one day, they were conscious of timings.
Come on.
I mean, it would have only added, another 15, 20 minutes on, wouldn't it? So it wouldn't have been that much of a difference.
No, especially with what came straight after it. I'd have gladly just traded another round of shooting for that atrocious dunk competition.
Yeah. So this is when we're getting similarities with the NBA All-Star weekend, because their dunk competition wasn't great either.
No.
But at least they had guys who weren't in the game. So, but then again, if it's a dunk competition, why do they have to have? Do they have to have people from the BBL? I mean, there's probably people who are good dunkers who don't actually play in the BBL, who are probably more entertaining.
Well, I mean, you know, you had in the NBA, they had Mac McClung, who was in
the
lower league. He's in the G League, and I mean, I know he's in the Magic G League, but still, he came back up to defend his honour and etc. I mean, I didn't rate his stuff anyway, but yeah, I was surprised at who was doing it. Like, for example, why Taos Green wasn't in there. No idea.
Yeah, I thought he was, but he obviously wasn't. He decided to play the game instead. But
yeah, and then when he played the game, ironically, he was pulling out all these monster dunks, and you go,
yeah,
why didn't you enter the dunk competition? But
yeah.
I think that was raised one interesting thing, because when it, like with the NBA competition as well, Jalen Pipkins, for example, very, very, very light-footed. He's a hoppy individual. In game, fantastic to watch. In game, but he didn't have that creativity to do anything really that you go, oh, this is not seen that before, or this is something different. Now, you could argue we're all a bit cynical, and we've seen everything now. Oh, someone's done it on off the backboard. Oh, someone's done this. Yeah, but it should take, people should go, ooh, oh wow, okay. And no one did that. No one really did that. And I think they I don't think Josh Sharma should have won at all. That was a rig if ever I've seen one, but there we go.
Yeah.
I think
So at that point, they had three people from the south. Well, not three people, but three events down, and three southern players or teams had won.
Yep.
And it went on to be the same pattern for the men's game as well. So the south won everything really. And I noticed there was the two commentators. It was Azania Stewart and who else was commentating? Not commentating, comparing. Sorry, Drew Lasker.
Oh, Drew Lasker. Yes.
So they were having a bit of a north-south banter, weren't they?
Yes.
Throughout the whole proceedings. So yeah, I don't know why they didn't continue the whole north-south thing for like the 3-point competition and the dunks and stuff like that. But
no.
I don't know.
Yeah, but it's really, really, it's really bizarre when you see all of those. I mean, first off, they say, right, here we go. We're doing a dunk competition, and they're the judges. You got 3 judges sitting on what looks like a table from a raffle. With a black little cloth thrown over it, and you think, come on, can we just do, you've got all these banners, all these boards, everything going around. It's like, we can do better than that. And it just looked like some ropey picnic table they'd rolled out.
Yeah.
And then they've given them all these cards where they're only going to pick 2 or 3 numbers anyway, so it just seems a bit pointless. And then they only voted for people that they knew. So
kind of,
yeah, I wasn't a fan of that. I forgot who it was for Bristol now. I want to say Trajan for some reason.
Trajan Jacob.
It was Trajan Jacob, yeah. I thought he should have won because he did his dunks differently each time. Most of the ones that Sharma did revolved around, I'm going to throw it off the glass and then basically come in with a big arm and do it. It's basically the equivalent of, in my view, like a LeBron doing a dunk competition where he'd come in and do his big old one arm back, bang. Have you got anything else? Well, I could do that and bounce it, but it's the same dunk though, but you're just bouncing it. Yeah. Well, I could do it off the glass, but it's the same dunk again. So there was no creativity with, I thought, a lot of them. And the crowd did not like it at all. Don't know if you could pick up on that, but
No, they weren't really into it, were they? No.
Not one bit. It just and you just think a dunk competition used to be a thing. I don't know if it's died its death because it didn't do well in the NBA either, but I just don't know if people are that interested. Whereas again, the 3-point competition, people would normally be interested in that, but in the NBA, no one was interested in that. What did they want? They wanted Steph and Sabrina. That's the thing that they wanted to watch. So I don't know. They're all trying to be creative at doing these things, but it doesn't seem to pull out.
No.
So after that dunk competition, we had the men's game.
We did.
Saved the best for last, eh, Keith?
Well, it should have been, but unfortunately, they followed the same format as the NBA All-Star game, where it was just zero defense for the whole game, and it was just dunks and threes, really, with no defense. But they kept saying throughout the game, oh, what's going to be the format? We're going to have 3 quarters of entertainment, and then you're going to just knuckle down and make it competitive. And they're like, yeah, that's what's going to happen. And then the 4th quarter came, and it was just more of the same. There was nothing competitive about it at all, even in the 4th quarter. So, no, it wasn't great. When they started throwing up half-court shots in the 4th quarter, I thought it would sort of reached a new low then. But if it had been played the same as the women's game, it would have been great. But it was just very similar to watching the NBA All-Star, I thought.
The fact that all of the commentators were openly laughing and openly mocking, saying, oh, I guess we're not playing defense then. And everyone was just saying it. And they're like, oh, they're out there having fun time. And they interviewed one of the coaches at one point and said, oh, you don't really have to coach them today, do you? And I went, no, they're just having fun. And he's like, yeah, you're even smiling. We never see you smile. And you think,
yeah,
it was just, and it wasn't even it wasn't competitive. It wasn't even like a scrimmage. It wasn't even like a pickup game. I don't know what it was. Throwing up 3-pointers every other, I'm just going to take 5 steps down to the other end and then jack up a 3. Oh, I missed it. Someone else will do the same the other end. Oh,
guess how many 3s were thrown up?
Oh, did you count? Oh, okay. I'm going to go 100. There you go.
121. How many makes do you think there was?
30.
36.
Oh, God.
You're pretty close there, Mark. Very good.
It's not bad. Honestly, they were they were air balls. There were air balls, and it's like, this is the All-Star game. You guys are supposed to be the top 10 players, or top 20 if you kill the bench or whatever. But you're supposed to be the best in the league. Prove it. Go head to head. You guys play for the Northern team. There's your Southern rival. Go for it.
Yeah.
Not one of them got that memo. I mean, Towers Green did some great dunks. No question of there. But the only player I thought did a little bit of defense, which was, he was entertaining if nothing else, was I think Kimball McKenzie.
Yeah.
He came on and he was actually hustling people, and he did a really nice little sort of floaty shot. That was cool.
Yeah.
But he was sort of subbed in, subbed out quite a lot because he's quite an energetic player anyway. But other than that, all those players that I thought, oh, you guys are doing really, Sam Decker's back. This will be interesting. He got a tip-in dunk. Okay.
He didn't play that much either, did he? It was he was on for the first quarter, and then I don't even know if he came back on, did he?
Well, I mean, I expressed my views about him being in the All-Star game, where they didn't play him against previous other league teams, and they didn't play him, I think, for one of the European games. And yet they went, oh yeah, you can play the All-Star. Now I know why, because if they went, oh, this is just like a dog and pony show, we're just going to be running around and just jacking the ball up. I don't know what that game was, but it was genuinely, I think they should be ashamed of themselves for people who've gone and paid their money to go watch them. And it's like, I don't know what I've just seen there, but that's not basketball. That's embarrassing. Like every one of those team owners, when your player's there, it's like you're not only representing you, but you represent our team. And you didn't even, so what if you're the one person who's playing full court D? I don't care. I want to see it. So what if no one else is doing it? It doesn't matter. But for some reason, all of them went, we're not just going to do anything. We're going to have zero effort. And it was just a rubbish game. What was the score in the end? I literally don't even remember.
149 to 116.
Yeah. I mean, was the NBA one was 180, 140 or something, wasn't it? Something stupid like that. Shouldn't be that.
No.
If these are the best players in the league, that should be like a 3-point game. They should be all going into that. Like, I want. And I'm going to say it. If you've got a lot of those players on the London Lions team, there's got to be players from Cheshire. There's got to be players from Caledonia, from Newcastle. They've all got to be looking at that going, we want to bully them a bit because we know what's coming in the playoffs.
It was quite interesting the way the teams were picked as well. I was just before we came on, I looked at the YouTube video that they posted about how the teams were selected. So it was only the first 5 that were picked by the public, and the person with the highest votes was made the team captain. But the remaining 5 was picked by the coach from teams that weren't in the starting 5.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know why that was the format that chose to do that. I don't know.
Yeah, I just don't understand it. It's like the NBA and now apparently the BBL, they get, if this is an all-star event, what's it meant to be for? Like, what is this for? Is it a showcase of the game? Is it just a shoulder rubbing exercise to get sponsors to come and say, hey, come and have an experience and enjoy a box and this is what it could be like? Is that what it's for? Because I know they do that in Indiana, and a lot of people have been quite public about how there's lots of deals that are done there, and there's lots of these sort of arrangements that happen in the background, and the All-Star game is kind of like the setting for that. So I don't know if that's the case. And this is just like, I say, the dog and pony show that we see. But it was I mean, dare I say, can you fault the organisation? No. If you're having it in a whole, doing all of that in one day, that's pretty well organised. I like the court. Shout out to is it Dynamic Flooring, I think it is. I like the court they did, where they did a dark circle and a dark blue and a light blues in the circles. That looked cool. I think they do a lot of the flooring actually in the BBL, I believe. Right. But they
the whole event was well presented. It looked good on the TV. But it's just a shame they didn't follow the same enthusiasm that the girls had for their game.
No, they showed them up completely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And when you then hear whisperings that people are saying that some of the teams are maybe taking the women's teams out of Europe and so forth, you think it's crazy because they're doing so well and it's actually really great basketball to watch. Like, why are you not promoting it more, saying, hey, come and check this out? Not, oh, we're going to step it back even further. It's ludicrous.
Yeah, it's not good.
But yeah, I didn't really rate that as an all-star game. Not really. I think they missed the bullet there.
Yeah. So maybe have a rethink and try and do something different rather than try and follow the American format. Because we know that doesn't work, because it's never worked for a few years now, has it? So
no. And I actually had to look it up. And whenever they instigated it in the NBA, And I looked it up recently because I knew they were doing the same format, which is the first 3 quarters are this, and then that's the final quarter where everyone's playing for. I just can't work out why anyone thought that's a good idea to do that.
Yeah.
It's lunacy, because they're like, I want to see my favourite player play. Not I want to see my favourite player walking on the court waving at me. No, I want to see them play. I want to see them do that pivot, that turn, that block, that dunk, that shot. I want to see them do the thing that they do that I like.
Yeah.
And none of them are doing that at all.
No.
I mean, I would literally have, at half time, I thought about this and just, it was really dark, but I'd have gone to someone in the media team, said, right, go take photos of all of the crowd, but focus on people or kids who look sad or who look bored. And then I would have gone to the printer and printed those pictures out and put all those pictures around the locker room. So when they all walked in and go, just so you know, that is what your crowd looks like. That is the level of effort that you're putting in.
Yeah.
And those are your fans, and that's how you're making them feel. Like you should be ashamed. It's terrible. It really is. And there's no point. What's the point of having an event like that if it's not going to do anything to raise? All it does is tarnish it. You might as well just not have one.
Yeah, like I say, if they'd all stuck to the girls' format and tried and played defense and stuff, I mean, I thought that was a great advert for the girls' game.
100%.
But the rest of it needs a definite rethink if they have one next year.
Yeah, I genuinely, I think they would look at that now and say, is it even worth us doing that? I mean, the dunk competition got dropped from the NBA for quite a few years, didn't it? Was it Kobe was the first person to win it or the last person to win it? Then it dropped off a bit and then it came back for Vince Carter. They dropped it out for a few years because it was like, it's just not popular. No one was, so there's phases. I get it. I think 3-point competition, now they do these skills challenges as well, don't they? They seem to be quite popular.
The NBA do them, yeah, but I believe the only skills challenge, it wasn't broadcast, but from what I could see, the skills challenge was done by a couple of mascots.
Yeah, Pat Riots.
Yeah.
And
there was another one. I don't think it was.
I forgot who the other one was. Yeah, I can't. It's going to stick in my head now. I'll say it in the middle of the night, I'm sure. Yeah, great. But I think a skills challenge, why not?
Yeah.
If you're going to do a day where you have a couple of events and then a game in the evening, if you spread it over 2 days, do a skills challenge and something else, and then have the ladies' game as a main feature, and then the next day do a dunk competition, and then the men's game. I don't know. Simple as that. Then that way you can split everything out. Everyone's going to watch the 3-point competition and skills, and they'll be there for that, and then they'll see the ladies' game, appreciate that. 1 day is probably a bit too much.
Yeah.
I don't think I could have sat all the way through it. And what's sad is I think I would be one of those people who go, I've got 5.5 hours, I've got to be here. Right, well, I can turn up during or just before the ladies' game. I could turn up before that and I'll catch a bit of that.
Yeah.
And then if I don't like the dunking or any of that sort of stuff, I can nip out and get something to eat. And then I can, and as it's paced, because it was just back to back to back, wasn't it, as well? There was no sort of stopping or anything.
Yeah. But the problem is if you spread it over 2 days, then unless you live locally, then it's an overnight in a hotel, isn't it?
Overnight in a hotel if you're doing both days.
Yeah.
But if you just want to do the 1 day, some people will be going for the ladies' day. And some people will be going for others. I mean, getting a hotel in London's not the hardest thing to do either, is it?
No.
It's just, I don't know. That's a long time, and the way they staggered it. So,
Yeah.
I mean, look, I think the game of golf's boring, and that takes 4 and a bit hours. So 5.5 hours, you're stretching there, really, aren't you?
Yeah. Yeah. Needs a bit of work, like I say, if they're going to do it next year.
What would you want to see? What would you want to see if they said, Keith, you have full control? How do you want to lay that out?
I think the men's and the women's games should be still on, but they just need to do something to try and make them competitive. I mean, the women's game was great, the men's wasn't. The 3-point competition, I don't know, there's not that many teams in the league. You could probably do a competition with one person from each team, and then get down various rounds to the winner. So that might be an idea for the 3-point contest, but again, it's down to timings. The dunk competition, I don't think you can do much with that. So, like you say, a skills competition, or there was a contest they used to do in the NBA, and I've not seen it for a few years, where there's a team, and it's the quickest team to score a layup, a free throw, a 2-point shot, a 3-point shot, and a half-court shot.
Oh, I like that.
So the quickest time wins. They've done that in the past, but not on the main day. I think it's been on the day before at some point.
No, I like that. That's good.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a, I must say, not like a horse, but it's that sort of thing, isn't it? Where it's a very basic principle of the actual challenge, but to nail it and get it right and do it under pressure and then do it as a race makes it much more interesting. I mean, people do it for drills, don't they, to get warmed up and stuff. What team, first team to score 50 53s or something. You could do there's loads of things you could do, isn't it? But
we need something different. So something like that would maybe try that, because we've tried the format that they had this year, and obviously there's bits of that wasn't working. So drop them and try something different.
That they tried something, and I think we can all agree, credit to them for doing something.
Yeah,
it just missed the mark in terms of how they laid it out, and some of the presenters I thought were really, really good. From what I saw or heard, there was a couple who were really, really good. There were some who were not so good. What I quite liked at the end was when the men's team won, and the men's game, and the announcer said, "Yep, the North take it, have clinched the bag or something." And you go, "No, they didn't. The South won." You're literally the score is on the screen. They just said North rather than South.
Yeah,
yeah. We all make mistakes, but there was lots of these little sort of things in. And you go. They had the announcers over the ladies' game. I don't know why there's guys doing announcing where they've got the team of ladies down and around the court. Get them doing the announcing, because when they were down in the court talking to people, they know so much about the game, and the ladies' game in particular. They're saying, "Oh, you played there, Temi, you did this, and you did that, and she did that. You've come from here." Why are they not doing the commentating? And also, a lot of those players or those people who were doing that with the ladies' game were British. So why have we got American announcers? It's lunacy. I don't get it.
Yeah.
We're not the NBA. Let's not try to be the NBA.
No.
You don't go to the Spanish leagues or Euro League in Turkey and they have American announcers. Why can't we be our own thing? Why do we have to? Yeah. So it's no offense to the guys who are doing it, but it just I have a real problem with that, because it just doesn't make sense to me. If we're trying to promote the British Basketball League, we've got a different game. you know, and one thing I wanted to sort of not wind up on, but one thing I thought was quite interesting is one of the people, I forgot who it was. I want to say it was Johnson, but he was one of the current players, but he was in the booth. And he said the thing is, in basketball, in the UK, you want the league to develop so that it's an attractive league on its own, not just a landing place to get people going into Europe or elsewhere.
Yeah.
And that was one of the positives, hearing people saying stuff like that on the air. Quite frankly, they were just having conversations just like we are.
Yeah.
But some of those things were maybe they would have rethought saying something like that. But it's true. It's a very true thing. You see players from lots of the teams start the season, get to maybe January, they're off. They're in Portugal, they're in Spain, they're off in France, Germany, the Netherlands, Sweden, wherever there's got a bigger contract or something.
Yeah. Well, removing the salary cap in this country was supposed to sort of limit that, wasn't it? But then a lot of teams don't have the money that they can offer in Europe. So
no, so it was a great first step, saying we're going to take that salary cap off. But we don't have the money in basketball. And when you look at the dynamics of the game of basketball, where all the funding comes from, most of the funding in basketball is not from people watching the game, like in terms of fans buying tickets, and that can pay for that pays for the venue and pays for maybe the venue staff and stuff, sure. But the actual, even like selling jerseys and things like that, you see some of the bills that they pay. I think is it Golden State is like number 2 or number 3 in terms of turnover. They got some big numbers. It's always Lakers and New York are the top for selling jerseys because of tourism. But outside of that, most of their money comes in from sponsorship. And if you added up all the salaries from the players and the staff, and then running you go, selling seats just won't do it at all. So that's what we need in the UK, really. We need those. We need more teams in the league. At least 2 more teams, ideally 4, but at least 2 more teams. Rather than losing them for a start. You know, you've got people like Plymouth who have issues going on. Manchester are owned by the league at the moment, I think.
Not sure.
They're trying to find a buyer for them, basically. So the league is actually like a conservator, effectively. So the league effectively own Manchester Giants until there's a buyer come in to take them on, so to speak. But I know, obviously, Newcastle got some great funding. You've got a great stadium. You've got great fans. You've got great heritage. And, you know, when we interview Paul Blake, it's very, very clear there's a big sustainable club that, you know, 20 years time, you could still be doing the same thing. It's fully sustainable. The academies, everything, the ladies team, men's team, everything. But there's lots of teams in the league who are not like that, are not set up like that yet. So to try and get the big money in, you've either got to find someone who's maybe like Formula One, in fact, where, you know, someone's billionaire parents go, yeah, we want them to be a basketball player. We'll just buy the team so that they can get a roster spot. Why not? It happens all the time with other sports. I'm sure the cost to buy a team wouldn't be that much in this day and age for the BBL.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Keith, what do you think the outlook is for Newcastle going into this sort of back stretch of the league before the playoffs?
So next game is Surrey at home. Then they've got Sheffield away 2 days later. And then they've got another tough game when they go Caledonia, couldn't even speak there, at home on the 28th. Then Leicester, and Bristol. So there's Surrey, and then the last home games against Cheshire. So it's not an easy run in by any means, but I don't think they can move that many positions from where they are in the league. So the playoff positions aren't going to change that much, I don't think, between now and the end of the season.
No.
So
given that, it will be the top 8 teams in the playoffs. And is it purely following the? I don't know, because I understand. I'm not saying that they've changed it, but where they got rid of the cup this year, they have changed some of the formats of certain things, like what they do with the trophy. So I understand they'll do like 1 versus 8, 2 versus 7, 3 versus 6, 4 versus 5. Okay. So
I'm not sure if it's over 2 legs either. Is it?
I thought that was what I was going to say. I think it's 2 leg.
Yeah.
So at the moment, as it would stand, you'd be against Leicester.
Yeah.
What do you think Newcastle's chances are there?
If they play well, they could do. I mean, on the day, we know they can beat Caledonia. We know they can beat London. They're one of the few teams that have beaten London this year. So on the day, they could go all the way. It's just whether they can find that form and keep it consistent throughout the playoffs. So we hope that they will. But who knows? I mean, hopefully last week's game was an anomaly that they won't repeat for a long time. But on the day, if they can stay injury free and gel together as a team, then there's no reason why they couldn't go all the way. But it certainly won't be easy. No.
I mean, I could see them taking Leicester. Leicester's a strong team. But I think Newcastle and Leicester are quite well balanced against each other, because they're both teams. They're not just, there's some solid individuals, no question, but they've also got a good supporting cast, and I think both of those teams are the same. Well, probably top 4 as well, Caledonia, obviously London. The difference between London and maybe the others is purely the depth of roster, where they can just pull someone out of the sky and go, oh, we just got this guy now. Go, oh, okay, that's handy. 20 points later, thanks very much. So that's the only thing. But I could see Newcastle taking Leicester if they win the first game. If they don't win the first leg, I don't think they would. I don't think they would be able to come back from that. I haven't seen. They haven't had too many comebacks this season, have they? Whereas Leicester have actually come from behind and pushed over the top to win on a reasonable number of occasions. Yeah. So they might have that a little bit more of that grit. I don't know.
Yeah. I think, I mean, consistency is the key as well. And I don't think Newcastle have been the most consistent team this year. So, like I say, it could happen if they hit a patch of form and everybody stays healthy. But it's certainly going to be a tough set of playoff games. Like you say, London are probably way ahead as favourites still. But who they would meet in the final is a different thing.
I mean, with those games now, Keith, does the league even matter? I know it sounds really silly, but no one's going to catch London on the top, so they'll be on that. Caledonia, pretty unlikely anyone's going to catch them. Cheshire, pretty unlikely anyone's going to catch Cheshire either. So between Caledonia, yourselves, and Leicester, there's maybe a little tussle or two, but I mean, we're splitting hairs, aren't we?
Yeah. It's going to be very close. Certainly be very competitive. I think the game's intensity will go up a notch when we get to the playoffs, because like we say, the league's more or less done and dusted, and people aren't going to move around that much anymore between now and the end of the season. So everybody's going to go up a gear when it comes to the playoffs, because it's do or die, isn't it? Yeah, the win, go home. So
well, that's why I was wondering if where you've got Surrey next, you said, and then obviously back to Sheffield. I was just wondering if these are games that you say let's rest some players, or give them, or minimise their minutes, because we know we've got playoff push coming, and the outcomes of these games are irrelevant. They probably mean more to Surrey, to be fair, that Surrey would want to win.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they do that, because Newcastle have had the fair share of long-term injury problems. So the guys who have been injured, who have not been back playing that long, maybe they'll get more minutes to get more match experience for the playoffs. But we'll see what Mark does in the remaining games.
That's what I'd be doing. If you get in someone, you want to get them in rotation, get them in there now, because it's not likely they're going to lose to Surrey. Surrey, they've still got depth, but Surrey will be wanting to get the win to make sure they keep 8th. So it would mean more to them, whereas the result is inconsequential in a way to Newcastle. So get some players, get the ball in the hands of people who don't touch it as much, or play around with the rotations maybe. That's what I'd be trying to do. Especially after that shocking loss. It would shake. Getting some people sitting on the pine for a little bit might remind them to pull their finger out. You don't know.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they go. But I think they'll want some sort of revenge at Sheffield, I would guess, following last week's performance.
They would have to. Have to. And that's what I mean. If you do the Surrey game, if you want to rest someone, if you want to do anything like that, do it in that Surrey game. Get some different people involved. Play with some tactics or whatever it is. Maybe use it as a gentle reminder to people that pull your shorts up. You got to perform. So then when the Sheffield games comes around, it's like we're going to go out and we're going to hammer them, and we will absolutely hammer them, so that everyone else in the league goes, oh, okay, that was a blip.
Yeah. Hopefully that's what will happen.
Yeah. Absolutely. Wow. You never know.
Yeah.
Well, I haven't got anything else. Keith, have you got anything else?
No, I'm done.
He's done and dusted. Wow. Keith, thank you so much for joining me. And it was great that we had Paul join us as well for the intro part. But yeah, really appreciate your help, Keith. And if you haven't listened to Keith's episode, go back and check it out, because it's a great one. There's a 2-parter. And no doubt we'll have Keith back on the show in the future, because you are a character, sir, and we most appreciate you being on here. Anyway, this has been our show. Go check all the other ones out. We've got 85 shows, I think, now, so they're coming thick and fast. And thank you very much for listening. I have been Mark.
And I've been Keith.
Absolutely.